Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you guys about the conventions of the epic poem and the conventions of the epic hero. When I say conventions, I mean the typical attributes of an epic poem, the typical attributes of what we think of when we think of epic hero. Not every epic poem and not every epic hero will meet all of these conventions, but this is just a general suggestion of what to look for when you're trying to figure out if a poem qualifies as epic or if a hero qualifies as epic. So, first things first, with an epic poem, you want to look for a poem that recounts the adventures of a nationally significant hero. This is supposed to be a fake election sign, as if you were going to vote for Beowulf for president. But what I mean here is that an epic poem has to be about a hero who's important, not just some random dude who's sitting at home in his boxer shorts and eating a Papa John's pizza. This is a man who is out there in the world, or a woman in some cases, who is out there in the world, known by the nation in which he or she lives, a celebrity. Now, in some cases, your hero is going to start out as an obscure person, but eventually your hero will become a huge celebrity. I'm sure that you saw that when we discussed the monomyth earlier. But at any rate, by the time you finish an epic poem, it's going to be about a nationally significant hero, one who is known by his or her people. Okay, number 2, the hero has to show great valor and superhuman courage. Even if it is a poem about a famous character, it can't be about that character making baked beans and coleslaw to take to his family reunion. It's going to have to be about that hero showing great courage and doing something awesome, not inviting somebody to come over and watch Netflix. It's going to be the hero having battles, slaying demons, saving people. If you look at this medieval representation of Beowulf here, this is supposed to be Beowulf wrestling, I believe, with Grendel. Grendel looks different in every artistic representation, but this is Beowulf here, who is struggling at the bottom with his legs wrapped around Grendel's arm. It looks difficult, is my point. And Beowulf here is showing great valor and superhuman courage by wrestling with this creature. All right, number 3. Supernatural forces have to somehow be involved. Every epic poem has something supernatural in it. Now, it may not be ghosts, but it could be ghosts. Ghosts are popular. It might be a god. Gods are also very popular to get involved in epic battles. But in Beowulf's case, you're going to have supernatural monsters that he fights. And sometimes the hero himself may be supernatural, and that may be the element that you need to check this one off on your list. Okay, number 4. The story is going to have a vast setting spanning nations, worlds, and or the universe. In the case of Beowulf, just barely, kind of. He goes from Sweden to Denmark. That's about it. That's not really all that far in the big scheme of things, but back in his day, that was a long way to go. However, in more modern epics, you'll see characters who truly do spin the globe and to go far out in the universe, like Thor or Superman. They're from very far away and are important in many, many places. But most importantly, when you have an epic poem, you're going to have a main character travel from one location to another. This person has to be internationally known, significant in one nation and known or will come to be known in another. Number 5. The hero's lineage, meaning his relationship to his ancestors, is cataloged and or explained. And I just stole this novel cover, Beowulf's children, we don't really know anything about his actual children in the original poem. But the point is that this is a convention that we see again and again in epic literature of all varieties. And partially this was because of the lack of technology. Now we don't need to know someone's lineage because they have things like a passport to prove who they are. They have photo IDs. They have, you know, people who know their face from media. But back in the olden times, they didn't have that kind of face recognition or photo ID. So they would try to prove who they were by being able to identify the clan from which they came and then the specific DNA ancestry they followed. They would be able to rattle off a long list of people to whom they were related. And I suppose people figured it was less likely that you would be able to rattle off that list if you weren't actually related to those people. So it was a way of verifying your identity and also a way of honoring your ancestors and also a way of identifying yourself as belonging to a particular clan or group, which was paramount in earlier civilizations. But for example, just to show you how widely accepted this convention was, I'm going to show you this excerpt from the book of Matthew in the King James Bible, in which there is great detail about the lineage of Jesus Christ. If you look here, Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Judas and his brethren, and Judas begat Phares and Zerah of Thamar, and Phares begat Esrom. I'm not going to go on and on. I'm just showing you how long it goes. And so this tradition of rattling off one's lineage or one's ancestry as proof of legitimacy has been with us for a very, very, very long time. Okay, and often, number 6, characters in epic poems will give extended formal speeches, usually boasting. And we still do this today in our culture, and you need to look no farther to see that than the Epic Rap Battles of History series on YouTube. I'm not going to show you any of that right now, mostly because of the profanity, but also because you already know about it. I don't need to tell you anything. But the idea of talking about yourself, boasting about what you've done, and impressing others with your oratory, that's still part of who we are. Epic rap battles show that we expect our heroes to do this. And you'll see it in Beowulf in detail. Okay, so let's talk about the conventions of the epic hero. Now, of course, this is the Justice League here. We have Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman, etc. And all of our superheroes meet the conventions of the epic hero to a certain extent. Although I feel like what is really important about what's happening with your generation and my generation too, in the last 30 years or so, our cultural definition of what a hero has to be is changing. It's a significant shift and one that's worth thinking about and talking about because of what a hero represents. Okay, so your first convention of the epic hero is going to be that he is significant and glorified, or she is significant and glorified. This is just like the first requirement of the epic poem. The epic poem has to be about a hero that is significant and glorified. So once your hero is significant and glorified, then he or she is qualified to be the subject of an epic poem. That means that once everyone knows who your hero is. And of course, we all know who Batman is. The bat signal goes into the sky. Everyone knows what that's for. And everyone waits for Batman to come and save the day. And also, your hero has to have a quest. Some heroes have an overarching quest, like Batman in particular has the ongoing quest of trying to get revenge for his parents' deaths and solve their murder. Sometimes it's addressed in a Batman story, but not always. That's his overarching quest. And then each individual Batman movie or Batman comic is going to have a different particular quest that he fulfills, as part of that overarching mission. Okay, the epic hero also has to have superior or superhuman strength, intelligence, and or courage. Although in some cases, though most of our epic heroes have all of those things, in some cases they only have one. I'm thinking specifically of Batman and Iron Man. Batman and Iron Man are humans. They do not have supernatural abilities. What they have is supernatural money, and that money and that extreme intelligence has purchased them technology, more or less, that has given them superhuman strength. And that in turn has allowed them to have superhuman courage. So they weren't born with all of these characteristics, but they developed them. As long as your hero has one of these categories, your hero is going to be all right. Now, typically, for epic hero conventions, your epic hero has to be ethical. Superman, for example, is the prime example of the ethical superhero in America. Superman almost seems kind of cheesy by today's standards because he's always supposed to be so ethical and stand up for the right thing and do the right thing and be squeaky clean and treat everyone fairly. And that doesn't really play well with the modern audience anymore. But remember that Superman was invented in what, the 30s, the early 40s? Superman is pretty old for a superhero. And so he is still following the conventions of the classic epic hero. We've seen in more recent movies like Batman and Iron Man that we don't expect 100% solid gold ethics from a hero anymore. And that's one of the ways in which our definition of a hero is changing. Okay, an epic hero also is expected to risk death for glory or for the greater good of society. Now, this is one way in which the classic hero gets a little bit of a pass on ethics. The hero can risk death and, do something incredibly courageous or brave or even a little stupid just because he or she wants glory, and that's okay. But more likely, you're going to see your top quality heroes, your most famous heroes, doing the courageous and brave work for the greater good of society because it's the right thing to do. The epic hero is going to think about right versus wrong and then choose the right thing as an example for the rest of us. And that's because your epic hero is also going to be a strong and responsible leader. And I put Spider-Man here because, as we know from the Spider-Man movies, with great power comes great responsibility. That is a convention of the classic epic hero. You don't have to cut that at all for the modern hero either. I think all of our modern heroes, even the ones who aren't so ethical, that are kind of anti-heroes, can agree that great power brings great responsibility with that power. And of course, an epic hero is going to perform brave deeds. An epic hero can't be heroic if they have the power to do brave deeds and then they don't do them. And now, the most important thing that I want to drive home to you about our American superheroes and about Beowulf and all the heroes that you've studied in literature in high school and that you will go on to study in college is that an epic hero has to reflect the principles of a particular society. Everything that you see an epic hero do in an epic poem, an epic story, an epic movie is going to tell you about the people that hero represents first and foremost. And if you look at Wonder Woman, you can absolutely see what America values, particularly what America valued in the 1940s, late 1930s when she was invented. First of all, if you look at Wonder Woman, you can tell that she is a woman that represents a country from the Western world. First of all, she's white. For whatever reason, in America, they decided in the late 30s, early 40s that a representative of America had to be white. Of course, we are seeing major shifts in that in our epic hero representation. Um, there are a lot of exciting Marvel and DC adaptations and movies that are coming of heroes of color. So we see that shifting. But remember that Wonder Woman is one of our oldest superheroes in American culture. So she is a white woman. And she was all edgy because she was a woman. But as a woman, I mean, look at how she's represented. Look at the contraption they have her in. I mean, this does not look like something that's a good idea to fight in. I mean, that bustier could come off at any point. But also, this is an American woman, and what America thinks is beautiful is, a great body. And Wonder Woman has that. And she is decked out in star-spangled underpants that reflect the American flag, and across her chest is an eagle. That, if you look at it carefully, that's a stylized eagle across her chest. So that's another representation of America. But one of the other ways in which Wonder Woman reflects the American attitude about women is the secret power that she has. I guess not secret, but her superpower that she has is that she has this lasso that lets her make people tell the truth. Okay, well, I mean, that's good and everything, but it's not exactly, dangerous. She doesn't have X-ray eyes. She doesn't have, the ability to fly. She drives an invisible jet, actually. She doesn't have brute strength as her superpower. She has this strange ability to tie people up with a lasso and make them tell the truth, and then she can hold them there until men show up to handle the real problem. And that's a representation of American attitudes about women. That's how Wonder Woman reflects what America believes that even our superhero women should be able to do. And once again, this is shifting. There's supposed to be a new Wonder Woman movie coming out. I'm really excited about it, and I'm hoping that we're going to see a more powerful representation of what women can do to fight. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have to say to you about the conventions of the epic hero and the epic poem, and I hope that you're able to use these while you're devising your projects for the next few weeks. Thanks.